Hello everybody, it's True here, welcome to another True review. Today I'm bringing you The Bridge on the Xbox One. Now some of you may be thinking, I've seen this game somewhere before, and you'd be quite right in thinking that because this is a port of a 2-year-old game, which previously appeared on the Xbox 360, the Wii U, and on Windows. The game's a puzzle game and it's inspired by the artwork of MC Escher, who is very renowned for his pencil drawings and this kind of art style. You play as an unnamed character who over the last couple of years has become known as the Professor, and he's got a simple goal. In each chamber or screen he has to simply reach the door and escape. So as with any kind of puzzle game, you're saying what is the hook of the game, what is the thing that this game does that other games don't? Well, it's simply down to the perspective and the artwork, which is what this game's strong point is. The levels are kind of drawn in that way where the levels are actually impossible to complete. Some of them you do things that you shouldn't be able to actually be able to do, but by manipulation of the screen, which you do by using the L and R triggers to rotate the screen left and right, you can rotate the levels around and drop the Professor onto beams and platforms that you wouldn't normally be able to reach. So that probably didn't make a whole lot of sense, so I'm just going to talk you through the first level just so you've got a better understanding of what the game mechanics actually are. So this is the very first level of the game. You can move left and right with the character as well using the stick, but you can also tilt the levels using the L and R triggers. So you start off with, obviously there's no way you can get up to that door by normal means. So you start off by walking forward and then you hit the slope and you can't go any further, so you tilt the level, which lets you rotate around like that, and then when you fall you'll land on this beam, which obviously in reality you wouldn't be able to actually land on, which then lets you in turn drop onto the other beam and then onto the upper level. You rotate the level round and through the door. It's very, very clever. The game proceeds in this manner over its 4 chapters, and once the 4 chapters are complete you then go into a mirror mode of the game, which is exactly as it says. It's the levels mirrored but also with added obstacles thrown in as well. So in total there's 8 chapters comprising of 48 actual individual levels or screens. The game gradually introduces more gameplay mechanics such as menace balls that you have to avoid. There's also keys you have to collect. On the second chapter it introduces a vortex which sucks menace balls, yourself in and the keys in as well, so sometimes you have to avoid those and other times you actually have to use them for your benefit. Chapter 3 introduces inversions, which what they do is they actually invert the Professor from a dark version to a light version, and then it also introduces the keys and doors or menace balls which are either in the light world or the dark world, so obviously you need to be in the correct world to interact with them, and that adds an extra dimension where you have to rotate and manipulate the levels in order to become the right kind of Professor in the right area. The 4th chapter introduces some of the most complex game mechanics. It introduces wind effects, which obviously blow you, the Professor and the keys all around the level, and it also introduces chambers called the Veil, which when you're inside you're not affected by gravity or anything externally. You're basically stuck in the Veil and you can rotate the level around freely without fear of the Professor falling to his death or falling into a menace ball or any of the other traps. And as I mentioned in last week's review, I am a sucker for hand-drawn graphics, and you can't get more hand-drawn than this. It's basic pencil graphics and pencil shading. They're really, really nice, and it does give the game a very unique look, which works really well in terms of what the game's asking you to do. Even though the graphics throughout are in grayscale, they do encompass a wide range of locations, from fantastical architecture to countryside or forest scenes, even a level inside a clock where you can actually view the level through the clock face and actually see the hands of the clock moving around as you're completing the level. Very, very unique and different to anything that I've seen before in a video game. Nice little touches add to the tone of the graphics as well, such as at the start of each level the Professor is hand drawn into the game, and even the artist's guidelines are left behind. Turning now to the music and sound effects, there is only the one piece of music that plays throughout the entirety of the game. Other than that there's just silence in certain areas, and that kind of fits the tone of the game, but it would have been nice to have a few different pieces of music, maybe varying from chapter to chapter. The sound effects are very minimal as well. There's only the sound of the Professor's footsteps and when items clank and hit the ground, such as keys falling or sliding doors that you may manipulate. I mentioned the gameplay mechanics at the start of the review, and there's one important thing I did forget to actually mention at that time. You do actually have a rewind feature, which I believe lets you rewind up to a minute of on-screen action. So obviously if you do make a mistake or you want to try something different, you can actually rewind the chamber backwards. You do also have the option to restart the chamber as well. Now the gameplay progression is handled really well in this game. At the start of each chapter you're normally introduced to a new gameplay mechanic, and the first chamber of that world will just ease you into using that mechanic and just be a straightforward puzzle. They obviously then progress to be more and more complicated as the chapter progresses, with the final chamber being the most complicated. Now from my experience with the game, I found the first 3 chapters were the easiest chapters to actually complete. You did become stuck on some of the chambers, but you could simply take a moment out and take a step back and have a look what you had to work with, and then say, oh yeah, that's how you do it, and then actually implement it on screen. In chapter 4 you find that the solutions to the puzzles become a lot more complicated, and you can't really take a step back and picture the entire solution in your mind. I found myself relying a lot more heavily on the rewind feature in chapter 4 and actually solving each puzzle step by step, like trying something then it not working, so rewinding, trying something different, and then making a little bit of progression, and then doing that again and again and again till I'd figured out the puzzle. I mean, just as an example, I think some of the other chapters 1 to 3 took me about 20-25 minutes each to actually complete, but chapter 4 took me over an hour and 20 minutes to actually clear, so a lot more complicated in chapter 4. Now, as you all know, with myself being an achievement hunter, I do like to comment on the achievements of the game that I am reviewing, and this game has a total of 20 achievements for the mandatory 1000 gamer score as the Xbox One's games tend to have. It's the exact same list as the Xbox 360 version and is made up of achievements for completing each of the chapters, so that's 8 chapters, both 4 standard and 4 mirrored, 1 for completing the game. There's 1 for completing collectibles, which I believe there's about 7 or 8 collectibles dotted throughout the levels called Wisps. And the other achievements are for meeting certain criteria on certain levels. Like, for example, you can only complete a certain level by using so many inversions. There's even a few levels where you're not allowed to actually physically move your character. You only can actually move your character by actually tilting the level. So you can't actually directly control the character with your stick. There is also quite a clever achievement as well in the level called the library. You have to complete the level without making minimal noise, and that level itself involves moving a sliding door which slams into the ground, so you've got to be very gentle with your movements, and there's also manipulation of a key. So it's quite a creative list, but also quite a straightforward list. Half of it's creative and half of it's just bog standard, complete the levels, complete the game kind of thing. But this is one of those games where if you use guides, you're defeating the object of the game. If you're using a guide, it's like reading the final page or final chapter of a murder mystery book. You already know the ending of it. You get more out of this game if you actually try and figure it out yourself. But if you want a relatively easy 1000 gamer score, I mean, follow a guide and you'll get it probably within about 4-5 hours at very most. Probably even less, really, if you're really good at following the actual solutions that people have posted for it. Overall, I really enjoyed my time with this game. It is a game I previously played on the 360 and really enjoyed revisiting it. I think it is a missed opportunity that it is just a straight port and the game's got no enhancements or new content whatsoever. Strong points of the game and the beautiful hand-drawn graphics and the actual gameplay mechanics work really well. The puzzles are very, very clever and it is a great idea for a game. Weak points, I would say, it needs a bit more musical variety and the controls can be a little bit sluggish at times. And like I say, it needed new content. It is just a straight port. So overall, I'm going to give this game a 7.5 out of 10. It's a really enjoyable game with a really great idea and lovely hand-drawn graphics. It's coming out tomorrow, that's the 14th of August on the Xbox One, and it's going to be priced at $7.99, so definitely check this one out. So I hope you enjoyed that review, guys. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe, and please check out and follow and like any of my social media pages. It really does help me get these reviews to you before release date. So thank you very much for your support, and I will catch you on the next review.